We ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. The killing. I like it. The killing. This is like a Hollywood production right here.
I know. Yep. They spent a lot of money on this.
Well, it's got credits in the lower left there.
Digital into the church.
Yes.
Here you go, man. Take this gun and kill this woman.
Don't check the chamber. Sit down.
Killer. Alec Baldwin. I'm surprised that's not up there. Well, they all masked up too, showing they gave COVID protocols.
Of course. Yep. Where's Joel Souza in this?
That was pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. And then there's two more parts to it.
There's two more parts to it. That was only part one.
Yeah, they're on the same page there.
All right, I see part two.
After the ad.
Clicking the ad now. All right, so part two. Is it part two?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this may be part two. No, this is a day in history. Here it is, part two.
Oh, there we go.
They make you do a lot of ads for part two. Damn you, New York Post. Damn you.
How dare you make money?
It's probably on YouTube too.
The Rust crew and cast committed major breaches of industry safety protocols.
Soft, ominous music.
The music is the killer. The music is good, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Baldwin and his production crew were performing a lineup. A lineup is used to confirm where to locate and angle the camera. Industry standards required Mr. Baldwin to use a replica or rubber prop gun whenever possible. It was unnecessary for Mr. Baldwin to use a revolver for the lineup.
That's true. It is unnecessary.
Industry standards required Mr. Baldwin, as a producer and lead actor, to accept the revolver directly from or in the presence of the production's armorer.
Yep.
Mr. Baldwin did not accept the revolver from the armorer. The armorer was not even in the same room. Mr. Baldwin allowed Mr. Halls, the first assistant director, to confirm for him the deadly weapon was safe.
Whenever you want me to stop
Mr. Halls was not qualified in weapons safety. Mr. Halls did not look at every round in the revolver's cylinder. Industry standards required that Mr. Baldwin personally perform or observe a visual inspection of the revolver to confirm it contained no live rounds.
That's what I do every time somebody hands me a gun.
Well, all of this is correct in terms of the description of the standards.
Oh yeah.
Industry standards required Mr. Baldwin to be trained and qualified in safe handling and proper firing procedures before accepting the revolver. Mr. Baldwin refused weapons training on how to perform a cross draw, the type of gun draw he was about to perform in the church.
And that might be
the first rule for safety with firearms on a production set required Mr. Baldwin to treat all firearms as if they were loaded and refrain from pointing a firearm at anyone. The industry standard required Mr. Baldwin to remember that any person or object at which he points a firearm could be destroyed. Mr. Baldwin aimed the revolver at his cast and crew within a dangerous distance. The cast and crew were only 4 feet away from Mr. Baldwin's weapon. Industry standards required Mr. Baldwin to ensure any crew in the line of fire had protective glass or other personal protective equipment. Industry standards required remote operation of the camera if Mr. Baldwin ever aimed the gun at the camera.
Baldwin's going at people, so I'm gonna put my bulletproof vest on just in case. I'm scared to death here.
I already put up my plexiglass in front of me. Interesting.
Remove primer, yeah.
Yeah.
When you shake a dummy round, you hear a BB rattle.
You do.
When you shake a live bullet, you do not hear anything.
That's true. When you shake it, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that refusal for training was something that was alleged by Hannah Gutierrez in her lawsuit. That kind of came out at that point that he had actually been offered training and refused it.
Now I wonder if that's because he's like, I'm a big shot. I've done this on, hundreds of movies. I don't need the training, or if it's because of his, he's quite open about his distaste for firearms. So
yeah. I would think that his distaste for firearms should be all the more reason why he should have training before he properly handles it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is one more, but we don't. I mean, I guess we're probably okay with just that. You can get a pretty good flavor of this this video.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see the third one because they
the
so many
third
ads
one,
in here.
Yeah, the third one is just below the second one. It's like 2.5 minutes long, and it's
I don't
talking
even know what the
about.
second one is at. So this is an ad.
I think
Come
it
on, New
might
York Times.
be. Oh, go
This
up.
one?
I think it might be that one.
Oh, it's just a spinning wheel.
You might have
sorry.
to refresh. No, that's okay. That's okay. We don't need to. But it's so I'll. You know what? I will link to the article in the description in case anybody wants to see it. But
oh, here it is. It's coming up now.
Okay.
There it is. All right.
I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I said, do you see that? She goes, well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
Using his own words.
Yep. That's why you don't do those kind of interviews.
There's definitely two deliberate acts that were required there. He had to cock the gun and he had to press the trigger. If he had his finger on the trigger, here and he's pressing it, he may not be aware that he's pressed the trigger. Then he pulls the hammer back.
Right.
And then he releases it and then the gun fires.
So dramatic.
This is how to get paid millions of dollars.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now, if this might have been a defective revolver, but I doubt it.
Right.
Oh.
Yikes. Oh God.
But it went through though, right?
Yeah, all the way through and then into
the
Sousa.
long way.
Yeah.
Sniper Elite 4 bullet cam.
Woo.
I gotta have dramatic music.
Yeah, so obviously there is hey Emily D. Baker, she's in the chat. This doesn't
one shot, 2 kills.
This doesn't address whether or not the gun was working properly, but that's something that is going to be investigated, right? That's something that obviously the police or the FBI, I think, actually took the custody of the revolver to check it out and to make sure that everything was working properly. And so, I mean, that's they're going to find out one way or another, right? So, unless there's something that they find that there's something wrong with the gun itself, and it's just working the way that a normal gun works, then it seems like this is going to be a very, 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 very damaging situation for Alec and for everyone else, really.
This is as open as shut. If these are the industry standards and and just reading through them, they failed everything. Yeah. Every single one of them is gone. So, you can, let's say if you had 2 of them, then you can make an argument that we can fight about 2, but all 15, like, this is ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, just look through them. Failed to use a replica or a rubber prop gun. Failed to treat the gun at all times as if it were loaded. Failed to refrain from pointing a firearm at anyone. Failed to treat the gun as if any person the firearm was pointing at could be destroyed. Failed to keep finger off the trigger. Failed to operate camera remotely when the firearm was aimed at or near the camera. Failed to provide adequate personal protective gear to everyone in the line of fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. So this is
the whole defense of, hey, I mean, let's assume for the sake of argument that this is a defective gun. The hammer is going to drop even if you're not pulling the trigger, because this is a uniquely defective gun. Even then, I don't see that getting them out of liability here. Even if it's, there's just so many things that they did wrong.
Yeah.
The defective gun doesn't get you past the whole point. That's why they say you don't point the gun at nobody, right? That never you have a protective shield just in case you have a defective gun. So, yeah,
that's why those industry standards are there, right?
Yeah,
like that's why they have them, is to ensure that if something goes wrong with the firearm, if something goes not according to plan, it doesn't function properly and something goes wrong, then nobody gets hurt. So, as far as negligence is concerned, we have that in spades. As far as recklessness is concerned, I think there's actually a decent chance in this case, because of the fact that the complaint also alleged that there were numerous complaints that were made about safety, made directly to various levels of producers and production managers and all kinds of different people. Like, so not even like they told the person that happened to be on set, hoping that they would report that up, and then somehow there was a break in communication. Like, no, these are people that were reporting like directly to certain producers and executive producers, and apparently saying, hey, we have problems here. We had two discharges, accidental discharges on these firearms. We also had, some explosives that went off that weren't supposed to go off. We have some major safety issues going on here. And the responses were, time. We gotta rush. We gotta hurry up. That was the response. So that and the budget. So I think that there's a decent chance in this case that they are going to not only be able to pull in people like Alec Baldwin, who was the person who actually had the gun in his hand when it went off, and I know a lot of people get very, very animated when I or anyone else uses a phrase like that to say the gun went off, saying guns don't just go off, you pull a trigger and it go and then it fires. But in this particular case, who knows if the gun actually was defective? We don't know that yet. Maybe not. We haven't heard anything.
It doesn't matter at the end of the day. I
Right.
mean, that would be a very helpful fact for Baldwin, but I don't think that it avoids liability unless, because as Nate said, the whole reason why you have gun safety rules is to assume that there's going to be a problem. You don't point the gun. If you're saying, hey, my finger's off the trigger, you still don't point it at something you don't want to destroy because it might go off, because of some defective whatever. It's
I think every gun owner should know is that, number one, the first thing they teach you, treat every gun as if it's loaded and ready to kill someone, right?
Yeah.
So if you do that, then you understand the difference. And it's funny because when you go to the range, and let's say you pick up a gun and you start pointing it, they're going to scream at you. What are you doing? You can even go to jail because that would be assault, right? You're scaring people by pointing a gun at them. It just doesn't make sense for him to say, someone just hands me a gun and I put it and I put pointing at people. I don't think that's the standard anywhere, but maybe on this Rust set, maybe they've had this, maybe that's just what they were doing there, but that's really, really extreme. I do want to make the point though. Well, we are talking about two different things in terms of negligence and recklessness. If we agree negligence, that's a civil standard. That means you're going to pay out your ass. If we're talking recklessness, that means somebody's going to jail. That's what we're talking about, your manslaughter and homicide charges. So this little workup seems to be pointing to some culpable conduct, some recklessness, and a little bit more than negligence, because recklessness is, just so everybody understands the difference, an accident is negligence, but recklessness is that you took a chance that you didn't have to take. So in other words, pointing a gun at someone, I'm taking a chance that gun could be loaded and do something. So if I consciously took that chance and injured somebody, that now is criminal, versus somebody handed me what I thought was a fake gun and pointed at somebody, then that's a different story. So that's what it seems like. They're saying, well, he knew this was a real gun. He knew the procedures and he took that chance anyway and someone died. Yeah. Manslaughter.
Right. And to be specific, we are talking about someone either knowing or someone who's in a situation where they knew or they should have known that there was a certain risk and they ignored it.